Welcome back once again to my humble little mini-series. Well, here we are at last, part 3. Now of course, if you haven't watched any of the previous videos, I highly recommend going back to watch them first. Just follow these links and you'll be able to watch parts 1 and 2. I'll just leave these for a few seconds. You good? Okay then, let's get on with the third and final part of... No more stick figures. Now, in the past 2 videos, I have tried to keep the lessons fairly general so that I could cater to any style of drawing. However, this time I feel I'm just going to go with my strength and cover stylized or cartoonish drawing. I've always preferred this style as, since it is usually quite simpler in design, it is a lot easier to give your characters personality and identity rather than more traditional styles of drawing. So for this video, I'm going to go over how to draw the different body parts for your characters so you can give them that personality and identity that they need. So, let's get started with Step 5. Heads and faces. The face is our most expressive part of the body, and from first impressions you can tell the most about someone from their face. So when you're designing a character, this is where you want to start. Let's take this head for example. Just by looking at his facial features, we can tell that this character is very happy, if a bit silly. We can tell he's happy from, of course, his smile and his very bright expression, and that he might be a bit silly due to his enlarged, goofy features. Exaggerating the features is key to cartoonish drawing. You can make someone look older, younger, happier, sadder, serious, sillier, more menacing, more adorable, or just plain odd. Even the shape of the head can work into how your personality is being portrayed. I recommend trying to draw facial features in a number of different ways so that you have a better idea how you want to draw it in your own style. I also recommend just grabbing a mirror and looking at how you emote. Pay attention to how your facial features change while you're doing these emotions, and how you can translate that into your drawings. Now before we go into an exercise, I'm going to go over a little guide as to how to position your facial features. Now when you draw your head, I want you to put 3 lines through it. One across the middle, one 3/4 way down, and a vertical line straight down the middle. Your eyes go on the middle line, your nose goes right under that intersection, your mouth goes on that second line, and then your ears go on the middle line as well. You can pause the video and practice that a few times if you want. And now for a special exercise. Over 3 parts you'll be designing your own character, starting of course with the head. For 1 minute I'll be displaying a reference sheet of different facial features I've drawn. Your job is to choose a combination of these features and then turn it into a head for your character. Okay, the exercise will begin in 3, 2, 1. And there we have it. Our character now has a head. Now for the most interesting body parts to draw. Step 6. Hands and feet. To put it simply, hands and feet are without a doubt the most difficult parts of the body to draw. Hands especially. This is mainly because hands and feet have the most moving parts out of any body part, meaning that there are a lot of very intricate ways they can be posed. Now, I'm going to try and make this as simple as possible to learn, but like posing, this is really something you'll want to practice a lot. Let's start with hands. Starting from the wrist, we draw a square or rhombus for the palm. Then we draw a small oval on the side where the thumb starts. We then draw a small line out of the oval as a guide for the thumb, and then we draw 4 lines out of the top for the fingers. Now, each finger has to be a certain length, so in order to remember it, I like to go pointer, longer, pointer, shorter. If you want to be very specific, the pointer and the ring finger are both the same length. The middle finger is half a segment taller, and your pinky is 1 segment shorter than your ring finger. Once you have all that set up, you can add on the extra details in order to flesh out your hand. Adding rectangles to the digits can be helpful for this. Now pause the video and try it yourself. This process becomes a lot trickier once you get into all the different poses hands can do. So like posing the body, I recommend looking at a bunch of visual references in order to get the posing of your hands right. This of course is a lot easier considering you have a pair of hands right in front of you. And another quick tip, if your fingers are bunched together or curled up like this, then you can skip the lines and go straight to drawing rectangles for them. Just bear in mind the differences in length. Now let's move on to feet. Now, to be honest, feet can be a lot easier to draw as, well, you can kinda cheat. If your character's wearing footwear, then all you really have to do is draw a shape like this. Sort of a semi-oval per se. Though, if that foot has to be posed, like taking a step, then you'll want to separate the shape at about here, where the toes start. So if you want, you can pause the video now and try and practice that with some of your walking poses before we move on. Okay, now barefoot, that's a whole different story. Stretching off from your ankle, you start with a circle for your heel. From here, we draw a line extending up to the front part of your foot, where we draw a rectangle, and from here we draw 5 rectangles down the front like this, each one smaller than the last. And from here, we add our extra detail to complete the foot. Okay, now pause the video and try it yourself. Okay, time for another exercise. For 20 seconds each, I will show 3 poses for hands and 3 poses for feet. Your job is to try and draw these poses via the steps I just taught you. As usual, there will be links above for skipping to each pose, or restarting the whole thing, and you can pause the video for more time. Okay, the exercise will begin in 3, 2, 1. Now, don't worry if your hands and feet don't look perfect just yet. Remember, this is something you'll have to practice a lot. Anyways, let's move on to Step 7. Hair. Now this should be a lot easier. Similar to the face, your hair can be a good way to capture your character's personality, if a bit more subtly. Now in cartoons, it's really easy to get away with making your hair just solid shapes. Example A. Though obviously you can use these solid shapes to create a number of different hairstyles. Whether it's simple, straight, curly, unkempt, shaggy, braided, tied back, stylish, spiky, crew cut, etc, etc. In terms of process, all you really need to do is take your head, draw the basic shapes to create your hair, and then add the extra detail. If there's a style of hair that you like, then have a look at references for that and figure out ways that you can simplify it, such as the fringes, the tips, the curves, basically the most important elements that make that hairstyle unique. Now let's try a little exercise to accompany this. Here's a style sheet of a number of different hairstyles I've drawn. I want you to take the head you drew earlier and redraw it, but add one of these hairstyles to it. I'll leave the sheet up for a minute if you need a reference, and if you need longer, just pause the video. Okay, this exercise will begin in 3, 2, 1. Look at those flowing locks, isn't it magnificent? And now for step 8. Clothes. Nothing says personality like the clothes on your back. Now the clothes your character wears can be fairly simple, such as a shirt, shorts, socks and shoes. I mean, that's usually what I draw myself wearing. Though other types of clothing can be harder to draw, such as jackets, hats, dresses, different types of shoes, jewelry. Mainly, what your character wears is based on what type of character you want it to be, and also usually what type of clothing you like. And like everything else I've stated before, the trick to drawing clothing is to look at references and see how the clothing is put together. Then translate the shapes, curves, lines into your own style. Take this t-shirt for example. We draw the main segment of the shirt for the torso, add in the sleeves, and put a hole for the head. Alright, time for the final exercise. I will be displaying another reference sheet, this time with pieces of clothing on it. Your job is to take your new character's head, put it on a body, add some hands and feet, and then clothing. You'll have 2 minutes to do this, but you can pause the video if you need some extra time. Okay, the final exercise will begin in 3, 2, 1. And there we have it, you've now designed your very own character. So, in summary, in terms of your personality, your head and your face are the most important to establish. Hands and feet are the hardest parts of the body to draw, due to their ability to shift, move, and pose unlike any other part of the body. Hair and clothing are easy to draw once you perceive them as basic shapes. And, as always, the key to drawing is to observe your object, draw it as basic shapes, and then add in the detail. And now for your final piece of homework, try and design another character. There will of course be links below to copies of these reference sheets. And with that, this video and this series comes to a close. I'd like to thank everyone who decided to watch this humble little mini-series of mine, and hopefully you've all learned a little bit more about how to draw. Now don't worry if you're not a drawing expert by the end of these videos. If this is what you love to do, and if you practice constantly, then I promise you, things will start to click. So, once again, I thank you all for watching, and I bid you all a very fond farewell. Bye!